Today we are going to sew lace Brazilian panties. What do we need to sew these panties? Stretch lace. For size 44, I needed 1 meter and 20 centimeters of lace, at least 15 centimeters wide, a small piece of jersey for the gusset, and a decorative elastic band for the top cut of the panties. Let's start cutting out the details. Take the lace and pin the pattern piece to the lace. Cut out one part of the panties. This is a very beautiful and easy to sew model of panties. They are very cool fit, well actually like other models of Braziliana panties. The peculiarity of this model is that there are no side seams. There is one gusset seam and 2 middle seams. On the front part of the panties and on the back, in order to cut out a second exactly the same panty piece, you need to take the first piece and align it with the lace pattern on the cut, so that after cutting we have 2 identical parts of lace panties. What is this for? After sewing the front and back pieces together, the lace pattern on the panties will be symmetrical on both sides of the seam. It will look very beautiful. Cut one gusset piece from cotton. Let's start sewing the panties. So we should have 3 parts, 2 main details and 1 gusset detail. Since you and I sew underwear at home, on a regular sewing machine, and consider the options of beautiful seam treatments without overlock, then today we will consider a very beautiful seam of joining parts made of thin materials such as lace and mesh. This is a French stitch. It will be completely closed and looks very neat. How to do a French seam? We take 2 pieces of our panties and pin them together with pins, wrong side to wrong side. We will do the first stitch on the front side of the lace. In the process, you may have a question: how to identify the front and back of the lace. On the front side, the lace pattern is usually smoother, and in general the lace pattern on the front side looks glossier and more beautiful. We have pinned the panties parts and will stitch at a distance of 0.5 centimeters from the edge. One stitch is the middle seam of the front panties part, and the second one is the middle seam of the back panties part. Made both stitches and trim the seam allowance close to the stitching. Turn our panties inside out and put the seam allowance inside. Pin the panties pieces face to face so that the seam and seam allowance remain inside. Now we will stitch on the wrong side of the lace on the back of the panties and the front of the panties. going to do the stitching on 0.5 centimeters from the edge. In this model of Brazilian panties, when the gusset is not cut, use several variants of gussets. It can be a petal gusset in the form of an oval. The edges will be overlocked or imitated with overlock stitching. It is sewn to the inside of the panties by hand in 4 places. But I do not like this method very much, so today we will consider another option. And if you know any other options for sewing a non-cut gusset to lace panties, please write in the comments. All the stitches are ready, and now you need to iron these stitches to one side and make a fine zigzag 1 or 2 millimeters away from the seam edge. We do this so that the seam is flat and does not dangle inside the panties. The stitch can be laid as a straight line and a fine zigzag. We've done the stitching, and now we need to join the panties parts in the gusset area. Take the gusset piece and sew the seam allowances on 3 sides to the wrong side, so that after sewing the gusset to the panties, all the seam allowances are inside. Align the 2 panties pieces with the gusset seam facing each other, and the gusset piece facing the wrong side of the back panties piece. Sew a straight stitch to the seam allowance width and trim the seam allowance. Iron in the seam and turn the gusset to the front of the panties. Pin the gusset with pins around the perimeter of the panties, and sew a small zigzag around the perimeter close to the edge. Thus, our gusset is neatly sewn on and securely held. Now we have to trim the upper cut of the panties with a decorative elastic band. If you're going to use a knit edging, you don't have to add any seam allowance at the upper cut. I will be working with a decorative elastic band with festoon. To determine the length of the elastic band, which we will process the panties, we measure the upper cut with a centimeter tape. From this value, subtract 10% and add 1 centimeter for the seam of the stitching of the elastic band. Overlap the edges of the elastic band and pin together. The resulting ring of elastic band is divided into 4 parts, and divide the upper cut of the panties into 4 parts. Align these marks for even distribution of the elastic band. Pin the front side of the elastic band to the upper cut of the panties. edge of the elastic band with an even cut of the panties. This type of processing with elastic band with festoons we have already considered in previous videos, where we sewed cotton basic panties and high-waisted thong. Doing the fine zigzag stitching close to the edge of the festoon. We make securing stitches at the beginning and at the end. At the point where the elastic band joins the ring, make a joining stitch with a fine zigzag stitch. Now all that's left to do is turn the elastic to the wrong side of the panties and sew a wide 3-step zigzag. That's it. Our Brazilian panties are ready. PDF sewing pattern for these and other panties can be found on the website. The link to the pattern is in the description. Good luck to everyone, friends, and creative success. Bye, everybody.